Some cardiologists are saying that running too much can damage your heart, that marathons might actually shorten your life. And there's some truth to that. But here's a problem. If you take that advice the wrong way, you might stop running altogether. And that is one of the worst things you can do for your long-term health. I'm Dr. Peralta, physical therapist and running coach, and I help runners, especially in their 40s and 50s and beyond, stay pain-free and keep running for life. In this video, I'm going to break down what they got right, what they got wrong, and show you exactly how to train for your body and your health, and also your heart, so you can get stronger over time. So why many runners get confused about longevity? You know, you see these messaging, maybe online from influencers, that running damages your heart. And that creates fear, right? Maybe some panic. Maybe you should stop running altogether. Maybe you should just start walking if you're in your 60s. But these are extremes, right? Quit running versus... And then there's other folks on the other camp who think, I'm just going to keep running more and more and just keep running like I'm in my 20s and, run high mileage weeks, keep grinding with no change. I'm going to do these run streaks, run 80 miles a week plus, and most runners training correctly. You get injured, burnout, or frustrated. And that lack of recovery, poor form, and no structure is how breakdown happens over time. As a physical therapist, I see this year after year, especially during marathon training blocks. People get these simple overuse injuries because they're just doing too much running volume, too many days of running with not enough recovery, and they break down. The truth is, it's not running itself, it's how people train. And if you look at some of the research here, a recreational runner, the rate of developing arthritis is only 3.5% compared to a non-runner who's at 10.2%. This is for both knee and hip arthritis. And then the competitive runner is at 13.3%. They had the highest risk, right? But essentially, there's a curve. If you're in the middle, right, you're just a recreational runner, you actually have a lower risk than the couch potato who's just sitting on the couch all day watching TV. So if you want a copy of this Google Doc and learn about running for longevity, I'm sharing inside my free online run group. Click the link in the description to join. So what actually matters for longevity? Dose makes the poison. Balance matters, right? This is the U-shaped curve. No exercise, highest risk for mortality for all terms, diseases, types of cancers, etc., diabetes, obesity, metabolic syndrome. And then when you do get enough exercise, where you meet the physical fitness guidelines, there's different organizations, American College of Sports Medicine, NIH, etc. When you meet the exercise, you get the most benefits of exercise, right? At the guidelines or a little bit above the guidelines. But if you do extreme exercise, yes, you may be at risk of like health problems because you're doing now excessive exercise. There is a balance, right? You do want to balance how much exercise you do, right? If you're like training for like an elite athlete, you're not ready to handle it, your body's going to break down, right? So, and oftentimes it's because you're either not doing enough activity, right? That's going to lead to poor health. Or you're doing way too much activity with not enough recovery. That's going to cause a breakdown. Again, the middle ground is where the longevity lives. So the real issue is not running. It's just running too much, too fast, too soon. Oftentimes, it's people who start ramping up the miles, going from 40 miles a week, 80 miles a week, 120 miles a week. Right, a lot of the research shows that when you start going up above 40 miles per week, injuries start to increase. And this typically happens when people are training for marathons. It's not automatic that you'll hit injuries at 40 miles per week. That's just when it starts to creep up. And then especially at over 60 miles per week, there is a sweet spot. Yes, you can train for marathons with lower mileage. And yes, you can train for marathons at a slightly higher mileage, but it is finding the balance that works for you and your individual recovery levels. If you're a bit older, injury prone, you may have to, lean towards the more lower mileage versus being higher mileage just to be safer on your body. And make sure you're doing strength training. So many, the bigger issue is not doing any strength training at all, right? Or not doing a proper progression of your strength training, right? You stick with the same high, light weights, year after year, not making any progression. That's a big mistake as well. And not having a true recovery strategy, right? Not being consistent with your recovery practices. And when I say recovery, I'm not just saying sleep. That's what everyone's saying. Oh, it's just sleep. I know sleep, duh. I'm not talking about just sleep, bro. I'm also talking about mobility. Make sure you get enough mobility training. And it keeps your joints mobile. Motion is lotion, excuse me. So you want to keep the joints lubricated so they could actually move well, not be so stiff and achy, and help you enjoy running. And then let's talk about load versus capacity. Load is the stress that you apply. Capacity is what your body can handle. Build capacity instead of just adding mileage. So what is that what I'm talking about? So load is what happens to your training load when it comes to running, either increasing the speed, the mileage, the terrain, like hill workouts. And these type of activities increase the load or the stress on the body. And then there's a mismatch will cause the body to break down. You don't have the capacity. Your body doesn't have the proper capacity. Maybe you're sleep deprived, not getting enough sleep, not getting enough recovery. Maybe actually dealing with too much stress or anxiety. Those stress hormones can increase your risk of breaking down or burnout. Systemic factors, right? Not eating enough, improper fueling, Smoking or drinking, that also puts it you at higher risk of injury and breakdown. And it also weakens your tissue tolerance, right? There's certain type of medications that even predispose you for like risk for tendon injuries, like statins for cholesterol lowering medications can actually increase your risk of having like Achilles tendon rupture or tendon tear. You have to be careful. Or too much cortisone injections can cause accelerated cartilage damage, like where you start getting more knee breakdown, arthritis, meniscus tears, etc. So the smarter way is to run less and run smart. That's why I'm a big fan of just doing 3 runs per week. For example, like an easy, a tempo or speed workout and a long run. And then 2 to 3 strength workouts a week. I'm a big fan of full body, but it's also making an emphasis on training the lower body, your glutes, your hamstrings, your calves, right, the posterior chain, your core. And also built-in recovery days. Make sure you actually have proper recovery days where you're also doing, focused mobility work to keep your body mobile and agile, so you're able to better handle the demands of running. You have a higher capacity. This is where you build up your work capacity to handle running. And execute smart training habits, right? Slow, easy runs. Do the nasal breathing. You breathe in through your nose. Check, hey, are you breathing at a nice, easy pace? And if you can't do nasal breathing, at least make sure it's conversational when you're doing your easy runs. Conversational pace. Get enough sleep, get enough mobility work, use structured progression, especially with your strength training and your run workouts. Use a smart progression, build your base properly. Give yourself enough time to train, whether you're training for a half marathon or a marathon or what have you, whatever race you decide. Follow the paid traffic light guide, right? So if you are dealing with pain or injury, a green light is like 0 to 3 out of 10 pain. That's mild pain. Usually green light, you're safe to continue training. Yellow light, you have to modify a scale back. There's about a 4 to 6 out of 10 pain, right? It's causing some changes. You may want to you have to modify your training, maybe decrease the volume, let's say 30 or 50%. And then a red light, which is you have to stop training altogether because it's causing you to limp. Severe pain, 7 out of 10 pain or greater. It's causing you to limp, swelling, the joints locking or catching on you. This is where you have to go see a doctor. And it's not getting better after a few days of rest, right? So you can use a paid traffic light guide to be smarter about your training as well. So what happens when you train the way that I recommend, right? Lower injury risk, more consistent training over your years, stronger muscles, tendons, and joints, higher durability, improved heart health without chronic overload, ability to run marathons with less running with just 3 runs per week. Multiple athletes I've worked with personally now who were able to train runners in their 60s who were told they had bone-on-bone knee arthritis. And I think this woman I worked with, Fern, who was able to run the New York City Marathon last year, despite being told, oh, you may have to stop running altogether because you got bone-on-bone. I helped her get pain-free, get rid of her knee pain, and she was able to run on the New York City Marathon and avoid knee surgery. And then also, this is going to lead to longevity, which are running career, right? Even if you don't like to run races, maybe you just like to run for fun, or you're more of a hobby runner, like you just like to run, 10Ks or half marathons for fun. You can do this well into your 60s and beyond, and also improve your performance. You actually can run faster as well when you train the smart way that I'm recommending. So I currently have 2 spots open to work with me privately for one-to-one coaching to run for longevity without breaking down. If you're curious, there's a link to apply in the description. First come, first serve. So the real truth about running longevity, running isn't dangerous, poor training is. You need to run more, you just need to train smarter. Balance stress plus recovery to build long-term capacity. And anyone, not just elite athletes, can benefit from structured coaching. So if you're in the fence about coaching, recognize that you don't have to be an elite athlete. You could be an everyday person working a normal everyday job. You can still benefit from coaching. If you want to run for life, think like an athlete, not just a hobby jogger.